Hey y'all. Today I decided that I wanted to revisit our Nightmare Soup. I have a fuck ton of stories left in this one, and then like I said, I have another book, I have a bunch of stories left in this one, and then I also have Nightmare Soup 2, and so I can read a bunch of stories from that one as well. And it seemed like you guys liked this video, so I'm doing another one. Story time with Courtney. Story time with cjades. I hate calling myself cjades. Honestly, I don't know why I named my channel cjades. It was like my Minecraft username, and when I first started my channel, I originally wanted to upload like Minecraft videos. Can you fucking imagine? Can you imagine me doing Minecraft Let's Plays instead of scary stories? Because I cannot. But I named it after my Minecraft IGN, which is nice. The last story that we read was Imaginary Friend, and we're just gonna go in order. So the next story is Strange Lights. Mike looked up to the sky as he drove along the country road 135. That's just a plane. That's not a plane, Rachel shot back. Keep following it. Mike and Rachel had been on their way home from dinner when an odd light caught Rachel's attention. They had been following it for 15 minutes and were now deep into the back roads of their small country town. Rachel, I don't even know where we are now. Let's just turn around and go home. She shook her head. Look, it's even lower than before. It's headed into those woods over there. Mike sighed in frustration as he turned down an old gravel road. Tall evergreens now surrounded their car as they headed towards the light. Why are we doing this? Mike's eyes narrowed as he glared at Rachel. Don't you want to know what it is? Rachel's gaze remained fixed on the object slowly moving a couple miles in front of them. I know what it is. It's a plane. Suddenly, the object disappeared, nowhere to be seen. Mike stopped the car and turned to Rachel, satisfied. Good, now we can go home. This place creeps me out anyway. Then, suddenly, the radio started to buzz. The car's lights flickered and the engine died. What was that? Mike looked over at Rachel. He tried to turn the car back on, but it refused. Rachel glanced up. Her shriek pierced the otherwise quiet night. In front of their car stood a pale white being. Its black oval eyes shined in the moonlight. Slowly, it walked around the side toward Rachel's window. Blue light illuminated the forest as a huge spacecraft emerged from the trees and hovered over to the car. Mike and Rachel were paralyzed. They couldn't move, and they could no longer scream. The windshield of the car cracked and exploded open as Mike and Rachel were ripped from their seats and lifted into the ship. 3 days later, a group of hunters found Rachel shivering against a large pine tree, a blank, distant expression on her face. They tried to get her to explain what happened, but all she could murmur was, "It's not a plane." And here's your lovely picture. I kind of knew my nails are really ugly today, so we're gonna hide the nails. We're gonna do nubby fingers, or nubby knuckles. Nubby knuckles. I kind of figured it was gonna be some sort of alien type deal just from the picture alone. And then this next story is called The Woman in the Window. And it says, the following is based on a true story. Which I did not know that was gonna happen in this book, and that honestly terrifies me. When Aunt Glenda was a little girl growing up in central Indiana, she experienced something that was utterly terrifying. It was the middle of December. The winter chill had started to set in, and the windows glistened with fresh frost. Glenda was snuggled up in her bed, trying to get warm before falling into a blissful slumber. That's when she heard the scratching. She looked towards her bedroom window to see a ghostly hand scraping away at the ice with unusually long, crooked fingernails. As the frost was shed from the glass, a woman peered into the room. She didn't say anything or make a sound. She just stood silently and stared towards the bed. Glenda closed her eyes, hoping it was just a nightmare. But when she opened them, there was the woman, glaring at her. She was extremely skinny. Her facial features were hollow and sunken. Her hair was long, stringy, and black. The woman visited Glenda every night for a week. Then she left and never returned. So when winter arrives and its icy breath starts to creep across your town, beware of the woman in the window. Rumble has decided that it is time for him to eat. Here's your photo. Rumble, you gotta be joking. Okay, well, we're gonna have to take a break because Fatty over here needs to eat. I closed the book really fast and I saw a story called Hungry Cats, and so we're gonna read this while Rumble eats in the background because I think it's fitting. Cats are way better than dogs, Jasmine said as she played with one of the kittens at the local animal shelter. No, they're not, Emma quickly shot back. A small puppy was playfully biting at her hand. Cats are easier to take care of. They're cleaner. They're more independent. Dogs are almost like little children. It's just too much responsibility. Jasmine started laughing as the kitten rolled on its back and pawed at her sleeve. Plus, look how cute they are. I think I'm going to adopt this one. Emma put the puppy back in its cage. Yeah, well, have you heard that cats eat their owners? Jasmine scowled. What? That's ridiculous. They do not. You didn't hear that story? Emma walked over and gazed down all the cats looking at her from behind the cages. A few months back, an old lady had a heart attack in her kitchen and died right there on the floor. About a week later, her son came to visit, and when he opened the door, he was horrified to find her 3 cats feeding on her corpse. True story, I promise. Jasmine rolled her eyes. I don't believe it. Look at this cute little face. He would never do that. I think I'm gonna name him Winston. Emma shrugged. Okay, I'm just letting you know what I heard. Later that night, Jasmine was playing with Winston upstairs and introducing him to her other cat, Frances. They were getting along perfectly. Okay, you two, time for dinner. Jasmine started towards the stairs, but as soon as she stepped down, Frances brushed against her leg and she tripped. She screamed as she violently tumbled down the stairs. Her head cracked against the last step, gashing open her forehead and knocking her out cold. Jasmine was unconscious for 2 whole days. She finally awoke to the sound of purring next to her ear. Her eyes slowly opened. Frances was licking the dried blood from her forehead wound. She then looked down to her hand. Winston had been nibbling on her ring finger. Her thumb and pinky had been eaten down to the bone. Yeah, well, I hope that, dear God, okay, I probably shouldn't have read that story because honestly, that's gonna haunt me for the rest of my life. Anytime I have an accident or like I trip and fall, I'm gonna be like they're just going to attack and eat me out of nowhere. If I'm dead though, then by all means, it's a free buffet. And if they're starving, then I understand. I completely get it. Now we're gonna go back so that we can actually go in order. This next story is called Bloody Mary Forever. That's the dumbest thing I have ever heard, exclaimed Kevin. Okay then, if it's so dumb, then why don't you do it? Taylor stood with his arms folded, testing his brother's bravery. Fine. Kevin marched into the bathroom and turned on the light. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, he shouted. I'll say it even more. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary times infinity, Bloody Mary forever. Kevin paused for a moment, gazing into the bathroom mirror. He then turned to his brother with a confident smile. See, I told you. Dumbest thing ever. Later that night, Kevin was sleeping in bed when he heard a strange shuffling coming from the downstairs bathroom. Taylor, is that you? Kevin slowly got out of bed and approached the sound. He looked down the stairs at the bathroom entrance. It was much too dark to make anything out, but he thought he saw something move. The figure of a woman. Mom? Darkness obscured most of her face, but then she shifted into the moonlight. Kevin could see her long black hair, pale white skin, and a giant ghastly smile. That was definitely not his mother. She then dropped to her hands and knees and furiously crawled up the stairs. Kevin rushed towards his bedroom, but the creature grabbed his leg and pulled him to the floor. She hovered over him, her stringy black hair brushing against his face, saliva dripping down onto his neck. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, it said in a gargled, broken voice. Bloody Mary forever. She then grabbed Kevin's leg and dragged him screaming into the bathroom. That's why you don't fuck with any of that shit. Do you guys do that? I mean, I'm sure a lot of you have played Bloody Mary, but did you guys ever do like the light as a feather, stiff as a board, like all those different things? I feel like there were a million different games that me and my friends used to play when we were in like elementary school or middle school. Also, Rumble's taking a shit. Rumble, why do you gotta do this shit when I'm filming? But I remember we would always do the light as a feather, stiff as a board, and I was always the person who got lifted up because I was the smallest, and I swear on my life I was floating. Like, that is the craziest shit in the entire world. All right, but this next story is called Teeth. I'm just gonna show you the picture now because I feel like it really adds to the spook factor of the story. The dentist examined Sarah's mouth intently. He then looked up to her mother. I've never seen anything like this, not in 25 years. Say ah. Sarah opened her mouth again, revealing a set of normal teeth with 3 additional sets of small, jagged teeth behind them. We need to take an x-ray to see what's really going on here. The dentist directed Sarah into the x-ray room. There she sat and waited. The entire time she could hear the dental assistants talking in the other room. Oh wow, look at this girl, one of the assistants exclaimed. She's like a shark with all those teeth. We'll have to call her Jaws. The other assistant continued with the insults. She's like a human cheese grater. They had no idea Sarah could hear them. Tears welled in her eyes, but that soon turned to anger. The assistants walked into the room and started prepping Sarah for the x-ray. Okay, Sarah, open your mouth. You need to bite down on this piece of plastic so we can get a good view of those fangs, teeth. The 2 men burst into laughter. Sarah's gaze took a grim turn. Do you want to know my secret, mister? The assistant looked confused. Sure, what is it? Sarah unhinged her jaw, her joints cracking as she opened her mouth as wide as she could. 5 full sets of sharp, jagged canines erupted from her gums. Sarah chomped down on the assistant's hand, eating it whole. He fell to the floor, screaming in pain. Sarah grinned. "My smile is my best feature." Way to go, Sarah! Yeah, you eat that bitch. If they're gonna be mean to you, eat their hands. That's gonna be my new motto. If people are mean to you, eat their hands. Okay, the next story is called No Swimming. There's no picture, so I don't know why I showed you that. It was the middle of August, and the Midwestern heat was almost unbearable. Luke wiped the sweat from his brow and took a big gulp of soda. "I can't take it anymore. It's 97 degrees and feels even hotter than that. We have to go swimming or something." Isaac agreed. "What about that pond over by Mr. Riley's house? It's the closest thing around." Luke hesitated. "I don't know, man. I heard he doesn't let anyone near that pond. There's a bunch of no trespassing signs and no swimming signs all over the property. Do you have a better idea?" "Fine, let's go." Luke finished his soda and the two headed down the road. The two took a little-known path through the woods and hopped the fence at the edge of Mr. Riley's property. Luke glared at the gigantic no swimming sign posted next to the water's entrance. "Luke, let's go," Isaac beckoned. The two jumped in the water. It was the perfect temperature, cool and refreshing. Isaac floated blissfully on his back. Ah, this is exactly what we needed. Suddenly the two heard screaming from the edge of the water. It was Mr. Riley. He looked more terrified than angry. "Boys, get out of the water now! Swim! Hurry!" Luke heard a loud splash about 50 feet away. A large webbed fin was headed towards them, and gigantic tentacle-like whiskers protruded from the water. "Isaac, swim!" The two boys kicked as hard and as fast as they possibly could, trying to reach the small dock where Mr. Riley was standing. Luke was well ahead of Isaac. The fin grew closer and closer, and then it disappeared beneath the water. "We're almost there! Swim faster!" There was a loud splash and a blood-curdling scream. Isaac disappeared. Mr. Riley continued to yell. Luke was almost to the dock, his heart pumping in panic. Mr. Riley knelt down and reached out. "Grab my hand." Luke extended his arm, grasping for help. Just as he grabbed onto Mr. Riley, another splash erupted next to the dock. Mr. Riley fell backwards and looked down in horror. He was holding onto Luke's arm, but the rest of him was gone. That's why you bitches have to listen to Mr. Riley! That's why you have to listen to your neighbors and read the signs and listen to the signs. No swimming, no swimming. Okay, I don't really want to read Pretty Pumpkins. We already read Hungry Cats. Okay, let's read Mr. Smiley and then we're gonna end this off. It was just after 2 a.m. Emily lowered her coffee cup and casually glanced out the window. She paused and then squinted her eyes, trying to get a better look. "Do you see that man across the street?" Her friend Hannah took another bite of her cheeseburger and looked over. All she saw was the glow of a lone streetlight in front of the 24-hour diner they were in. "What man? I don't see anyone." Emily's eyes were fixated on the road. "You don't see the man out there? He's wearing a yellow suit. You can't really miss him." Hannah smirked. "Emily, there's nobody out there, I promise." Emily looked back outside. Her eyes widened. "Hannah, the man is right there. He's under the streetlight now. He's holding flowers or something in his hand." Hannah rolled her eyes. "Is this a joke? There is definitely not a man outside. Stop trying to scare me." Emily stood up. "I'm not trying to scare you." She rushed over to the waitress standing next to the cash register. "Ma'am, do you see a man standing outside? He's in a yellow suit and holding flowers." The confused waitress looked over Emily's shoulders towards the window. "I don't see anyone, hun." Emily turned around. The man was standing just outside the window, glaring right at her. He was holding a bouquet of dead, yellowish tulips. His mouth was twisted into a hideous grin. "He's right outside the window. How can you not see him?" Emily started to tremble as tears welled in her eyes. Hannah got up and grabbed her shoulders. "Emily, calm down. You're being delusional. What is wrong with you?" Emily, shaking with fear, looked over Hannah's shoulder and nearly fell to the floor. "Hannah, he's inside the diner." Emily grabbed Hannah's arm and pulled her towards the door. As she rushed outside, she heard Hannah drop to the ground behind her. Emily turned around to see Hannah's lifeless body lying on the pavement. In her hand was a bouquet of dead yellow tulips. I wonder if that's death. I wonder if that's like death coming and he got Hannah. I'm assuming that's what it is, but maybe I'm just dumb as fuck and I'm like, that's amazing. But that is all we're gonna read for now. If you guys want me to read more, just let me know. And if you don't want me to read more, then I won't. Fine. You don't have to tell me twice if you don't like these videos. I will get anxious and never film one ever again. That's just how I do. I do that all the time. I'll film a video and get super anxious about uploading it. And so like the day it's supposed to go up, I'll just delete the video. I'm like, never mind. And I actually did that today. On Wednesday. So you're seeing a TikTok video on Wednesday, but I had originally filmed something else and I was like, no, that's okay. I don't want to do that anymore. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm feeling really like, I don't know, like really hyper today, but I'm also really fucking tired because I woke up at 6 a.m. and so I'm ready for a nap. But I also feel like just talking and like doing dumb shit. I don't know. I'm in like a weird, I think I'm like delusionally tired kind of thing. But I'm gonna go. I love you guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye. I think I already want to dye my hair black. I know I just dyed it red, but I was watching a video, an old video of mine, where my hair was black and I was like, damn, like I really miss that. And honestly, my hair hasn't been like black in a while because I was letting it fade for a long time. And then I like bleached it into the green and now the red, and so I feel like I just miss her. I miss the black hair. And so I'm probably gonna go back to black very soon. Okay, see ya.